You're listening to Alcoholics Alive, where recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous share their experience on how they live AA as a way of life. None of our participants get paid or speak for AA. Here are your hosts, Shank and Wayne. So Shank, the 75th General Service Conference is this week.
Wow.
How about that? 75 years.
It's pretty crazy.
Conferences. It is pretty crazy. I saw a few interesting things coming across on the gram. There's a picture of the stage, and I thought the theme of it this year was interesting. It says 75th General Service Conference 2025, Working Together, Increasing Trust.
Wow. Increasing trust for what?
Well, I don't know. That's all it says. So it kind of implies that maybe there hasn't been trust at the General Service Conference.
Interesting.
It is interesting that adults can't practice principles and just get along and be honest. But I think that title is telling of maybe what's been happening. And a lot of those agenda items, you can tell they're trying to stop something. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. And then there was another one that had like a little pamphlet with all some of the pins from the different areas.
It's a bookmark.
That's exactly what that is. It's a bookmark.
Yeah. You can use it in your service manual.
That's right. And your secret service manual, as they say.
This is the secret.
So I thought this was interesting. General Service Conference process. In gratitude for 75 years of making miracles possible, one day at a time. What does that...
You know what's interesting to me is, and I may be wrong on this, but I thought that miracles were typically tied to religion.
Correct.
So.
Yep. It does sound like some kind of religious organization or like some like fundraiser, for curing cancer in kids.
Something.
Making miracles possible one day at a time. Give me a break.
Interesting. So we're looking at this on the Alcoholics Anonymous _GV Instagram page, which is the official Instagram page of the Grapevine.
That's right.
Okay.
So you can go and check that out. I'm waiting for more stuff to get posted there. So anyway, give you a little flavor of what's happening in New York today. And it kind of goes in line with our season of looking at the agenda items and other things that are going on at the conference. So before we do any of that, Shank, what's our Upon Awakening reading?
All right. Today, our Upon Awakening reading comes from the book Alcoholics Anonymous at page 132. That's the 4th edition from 2001. And it says, if newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and place what we have at his disposal. For his sake, we do recount and almost relive the horrors of the past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others find we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter made for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and have been given the power to help others.
What a good reading.
We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations.
Yep.
I guess it could be argued that we're indulging in cynicism over the state of GSO,
I was
but
thinking that when you said it, I was like, uh-oh, well, we might be indulging in cynicism over the state of the conference and their agenda. Probably not. I think we're just trying to inform people on what's going on, and they say everyone has a voice.
that's
We
right.
just happen to be voicing it here.
Well, and the cynicism over the state of the nations, right, is an outside issue. So I think that this goes back to, that sense of trust. We're
Hmm.
building trust in the conference this year because the trust has been broken from bringing in all these outside issues.
Very good point. Yeah. Yeah, you can go back and look over the last, I'd say, 5 years, 6 years, and see that there obviously is a lot of trust that's been broken, and it's just weird stuff that has kind of filtered in to AA and has filtered into the conference. I know it's not a popular term, but a lot of it's like social justice stuff. A lot of it is, I mean, we would say politically motivated. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's an ideology that has gotten kind of in, and I would just say that it doesn't do anything to really help us to help another alcoholic.
Well, social justice is important, but it is an
It is.
outside issue to what we are trying to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the beautiful thing about AA to me has always been that it did not matter where I came from, who my parents are, where I lived, that I was going to prison, that I had no idea about politics or the state of where I lived or anything.
Hmm.
Like I had no clue, and it did not matter.
Yep. Yeah. You could even, I mean, we've said this, talked about this before. I would even argue that Alcoholics Anonymous was a pioneer in social justice when it wrote its traditions.
Yeah.
And the traditions are already like perfect. It tells us that anyone can be a member if they suffer from alcoholism. It tells us that we should help anyone who wants help,
Yep.
right? So we were already breaking down barriers that those barriers really and technically don't exist in Alcoholics Anonymous. They just started existing because individuals and groups started making them
Yep.
exist. So, you know, we don't need anything new. We need to follow what's already there.
Hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. Now, personally, on this reading, I like the idea of being recovered and of having the power to help other people
Yeah.
and having fun, laughing a little bit. I'm sure people are laughing at us right now. They're bursting out of merriment.
Well, okay, and like the whole point is like, okay, we have recovered and now we have the power to help others. Amazing.
Yep. And we help others mainly by sharing our experience,
That's right.
our personal experience, and by just helping someone try to take and apply the 12 steps. There's not much needed to do that other than your time and your willingness. A video is not going to help with that.
Grapevine
Instagram
book.
page, Grapevine book's not going to help with that. Instagram, nothing wrong with some of that stuff, but it's unnecessary. Matter of fact, you could argue that some of that stuff is actually a distraction,
Yeah.
and it gets in the way if you use it. So I'm going with being recovered and having the power to help other people.
Love it.
What's our topic today?
So today we are going to be talking about are pamphlets necessary? This is going to be a literature discussion.
Uh-oh.
Um, so we have mentioned if you're just kind of tuning in, go back and listen to the first 5 episodes. But we've been discussing what's going on at the conference this year, at the committee, and kind of all of the things that they have on their agenda. And it is, if you read through it, it is glaringly obvious that many, many, many of these items have to do with pamphlets and rewriting and or updating
Yep.
and or changing a word or should we, could we, can we? And yes, it is kind of all in the name of, quote, helping someone. If we help one person with a pamphlet, it is worth it. Um,
Not what the first tradition says.
just very, I did not realize personally how much time we spend, and in my opinion, waste on talking about certain literature.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually mind-boggling when you start looking at the agenda for the conference, and there's roughly 20 agenda items on there having to do with pamphlets and workbooks, and it's a constant debate. It's a constant like rehashing of stuff, a constant review, and it just seems that the time could be spent on something more important, or don't spend the time on anything and have a shorter conference and save some money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of other ways lots of other things that could be doing instead of arguing over a comma in a pamphlet, or, whether we need to update the pamphlet on young people because young people are somehow different today than they were, a few years ago. I don't know. So I got some info for you, Shank.
All right.
So all of this comes from our 2023 final report.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk a lot about stuff and we say a lot of things, but these are some factual numbers and stats from the actual report.
Okay.
So in 2023, our gross literature sales was roughly $14.6 million.
That seems like a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot. And it was roughly from about, I don't know, 4 million different types of literature being sold. The expense, or what they call cost of goods, to produce that literature was about 7.7 million. So the net revenue for World Services was right at $7 million. It was $6.9 million. So we made a net profit or gross profit off of our literature sales of almost $7 million. So I say that because a lot of times we think we sell literature at cost or for free, not for free, but that we don't make money on it. And it's actually a large portion of our net income.
Okay, but it's not all of it.
It is not all of it. So we also take in contributions from groups and individuals, bequests, if you will. And our total contributions from, I guess, what we would call seventh tradition, it's not all that, but was $10,841,000. So almost $11 million in group contributions.
That's crazy to me.
Yes. So, yeah, if you look at like total combined revenue, we took in we netted about $17,755,000. So roughly 60% of that was from group contributions and 40% was from literature.
And we're litigating, coming back and
Yep.
asking for more money.
Yeah. Yeah, remember there was an agenda item in there to kind of task the delegates to go back and explain to us about how inflation works and that the $5 you gave last year is not enough today, so you need to give more.
Which could very well be true. Okay, like I'm not slamming that necessarily. I think that's a really silly thing to be discussing at the conference, whatever. But it seems like the AA members are giving a lot.
A lot. Almost $11 million. Yeah, so you start thinking about like, I mean, what's the purpose of the office and what are they doing? And the office sends out this thing, what AA did, and there's some pretty good stuff in there. But you would think we could operate if we're truly just gonna try to provide some resources to help us carry the message, and we're gonna do CPI work and translate books in other languages. You think they could do it with the money that they have?
The
And
office is nice, okay?
yeah, you've
The
been there
office is
several times.
really nice, and you need to go. So everyone email us and tell Jerry he needs to go. We could even just fly out for a day to go visit the General
Hmm.
Service office.
I've been avoiding it for a long time, but I'll go. I think maybe we'll go. We'll go soon. Just a couple more stats for you. So, grapevine literature. So for like the books and stuff sold, their gross was 562,000. Revenue on subscriptions was 601,000. So their total kind of gross revenue was 1,633,000. Total expense was a little over 2 million. So in 2023, the Grapevine operated at a deficit of almost $900,000. So I know we've beat this one to death, but to say that the Grapevine is funded by subscriptions only is not true. They took money from the reserve fund and did some other finagling to operate in 2023. So that money's
Well,
coming out of the AAWS reserve fund and being transferred over to the Grapevine. So that technically is group contribution money.
it's interesting you say that. In 2010, it was recommended, this is a crossover between pamphlets and grapevine literature,
Yep.
that the following be added to the pamphlet: self-support, where money and spirituality mix, where appropriate. Question: can our group make financial contributions to AA Grapevine? Answer: no. AA Grapevine Inc. is not set up to take contributions from groups or individuals. Groups and individual AA members support the Grapevine by purchasing Grapevine and Lavinia magazine subscriptions and other Grapevine publications and using them in their 12th step work.
How about that?
In the second paragraph
So,
on page 7, they wanted to change it from rent refreshments AA literature to rent refreshments AA and AA Grapevine literature.
hmm so shouldn't we update some of that stuff like on the website and actually say that, well, yeah, your group contributions are going to help the Grapevine?
My biggest gripe, and I know I've said this a lot on this podcast, is that you go to the Grapevine website and even the full page Grapevine um, flyer in the
Yep.
2024 um, conference notes says that it is fully supported by magazine subscriptions and
Yep.
other Grapevine literature. And that is just not true. And
It's not true.
as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous who had to learn the hard way how to be fully self-supporting, how to be honest about where I am financially, how to do a financial fist step, if you will, on what I'm spending, what I'm doing, having a prudent reserve personally, having a prudent reserve in business. It really just ticks me off so bad that it feels very dishonest. And I believe that the majority of the fellowship would probably be fine with bankrolling the Grapevine. I could be wrong, but
Probably.
I do think that you need to be honest about that. And for
Yeah, call it what it is. They aspire to be self-supporting through subscriptions, but they're not.
Yeah.
And literature sales, they're not. As a matter of
It
fact, go ahead.
it seems so dishonest to me.
Yeah, it's because it's dishonest.
Yeah.
And Lavinia operated at a $753,000 deficit, which we knew that, and that's now called a service piece. So it's paid for right out of contributions. So,
For
or I say contributions, it's paid out of the general service fund.
okay, but 70% of the general service fund is contributions.
Correct. That's right. 60%.
60%. So,
Yes. Yep. So basically, GSO literature, if you will, we made about $7 million. Grapevine, we lost 900,000. Lavinia, we lost about 800,000. So that's the rundown on literature. So, and on our financials that are available to us, they don't break out pamphlets. So when I first started getting the information, I was trying to find out like how much revenue we took in on pamphlets and what it cost us to produce them to see what the net effect was, and that information was not available. So I can tell you that we did distribute a little over 2 million pamphlets in 2023. That's a lot of pamphlets.
how many pamphlets do
And
we have?
about 5,400 workbooks. So there are, hold on, I can tell you real quick. There's about
60?
62, yeah,
Okay.
62 pamphlets. And so the most, what do you think the most read pamphlet is? No, let me back up. That's not right. The most distributed pamphlet. We don't have any evidence that anybody reads them.
Well, with how much we've been talking about all of these pamphlets that are needed and wanted, and we have so many people in AA that can't get sober without a pamphlet, I would think that like the number one most sold would be like AA for the, I don't know what it's called now, African American, Black in AA, it used to be called, I think,
Yes,
or the LGBT one, or maybe the young people, the old people, any of the like very specific
right. Because
one of those.
those are the ones that like you hear about all the time, and those are the ones that they're constantly thinking that they have to like update or change. So the LGBTQ pamphlet, there were approximately 24,570 distributed in 2023.
How many total
It was
pamphlets did you say were sold?
2 million, 2 million.
Okay.
So it was 1%. Listen, it was 1% of the total pamphlets distributed. And how much time have we spent on that? So if you average that like per the number of total groups that are documented, it's less than one pamphlet per group. It's like zero point 0.4 pamphlets per group that's distributed. So, so another one, the God word, we had to have it. There's been 31,000 of those distributed. It's basically 1.5% of the total pamphlets, and about a half of a pamphlet per group is distributed. 0.48. even the pamphlet that I'm a fan of, Do You Think You're Different?
Mm-hmm.
There were only about 47,000 of those distributed. It's a little higher. It was about 2.3% of the total, but it's less than one pamphlet per group.
You know what's
So,
interesting too? Like, okay, so for the LGBTQ, it looks to me like we were talking about this in 1989.
really,
Okay.
that's all the way back in the advisory actions, huh?
Yeah, and the manuscript for a pamphlet for gay and lesbian alcoholics be approved with specific editorial changes, which will be reviewed by the Conference Literature Committee before publication, and the title be AA and the Gay Lesbian Alcoholic. And so in, I think 2018, we changed it to it was the AA and the Gay Lesbian Alcoholic. It was retitled Experience, Strength, and Hope LGBTQ Alcoholics in AA.
I, yeah. Well, so we're just going to keep doing that. I don't know. It's weird. So on that one specifically, I mean, our group has a large percentage of what
LGBTQ.
LGBTQ. We are personally associated with a lot of LGBTQ and sponsor some, and none of them use the pamphlet.
No.
No, some of them have never read it. Matter of fact, a few of them refuse to read it because they believe in the third tradition.
Well, and
So,
here's the thing is like with a lot of this, we act like these are super new issues. And like I can fall prey to that sometimes of being like, oh, great, just the way of today is get mad about certain things. But it seems to me like reading past advisory actions, what we do is follow the way of whatever is going on in the
yeah,
world or government or
yeah,
social or whatever.
yeah,
And we change the names of all of this. And then
yeah,
eventually we have to change it
yeah,
back. And then we have to talk about it again.
yeah,
And then we have to talk about it again. I don't think
yeah.
anyone in Alcoholics Anonymous wants to use terms that are offensive.
No, no,
But
you're
that's
right.
exactly why we shouldn't use these terms at all. And we should have a few pamphlets that are for alcoholics. And it does not matter what your other
Hmm.
afflictions, personal life, lifestyle,
Yep.
sports team, what car you drive,
Right.
where you're housed.
So we've been messing with that particular pamphlet, changing the titles of it and the words for 36 years. And most of the evidence points to no one really uses it. The the one for the black and the African American, 15,850 distributed in 2023. It was less than 1% of the total pamphlets distributed, and there were 0.25 total pamphlets distributed per group. 12 concepts for world services.
Mm-hmm.
We got to move those. Now they want to put that into the 12 and 12.
12 by 12 by 12.
12 by 12 by 12. There were 20,000 of those distributed. It was about 1% of the total, and less than point 0.3. It was 0.32 per group. The so so now we're inventorying 62 pamphlets, and it looks like there's only about 5 or 6 that are maybe widely read. And I wonder how much money, time, and energy we could save if we skinnied down our inventory, to your point earlier, and just had a few. The number one pamphlet is A Newcomer Asks. And they distributed a little over 200,000 of those. It was about 10% of the total pamphlets distributed, and about 3 pamphlets per group distributed. And if you remember, Shank, we covered this. We had a season just on pamphlets,
Yes.
and we had guests on, and we read stuff out of the pamphlet. I think Julia was our guest on that one. And no, she did young people. Who did A Newcomer Asks? It doesn't matter. They had never read the pamphlet.
Was it Adrian?
It could have been. I have to go back and look at that. We'll
Yeah.
clean that up. It's a decent pamphlet, but here's an interesting thing. So in the pamphlet, I'm not going to go through the pamphlet, but the first question is, am I an alcoholic? Listen to this. If you repeatedly drink more than you intend or want to, if you get into trouble, or if you have memory lapses when you drink, you may be an alcoholic. What?
Well,
Is a memory lapse a blackout? Anyway, I don't want to get too deep.
I don't know
knee
if that's a
deep in that.
blackout or if I don't know exactly what that means.
Me either. The other thing interesting about the top 10 pamphlets, this has always cracked me up. I know I've said this before. So the number 2 pamphlet is called Is AA for You? The number 3 pamphlet is called This is AA. And the number 8 pamphlet is called Is AA for Me? Now look, I've got all 3 of those pamphlets right here with me right now,
Yeah.
and they all kind of say the same thing. Why do we need 3 of them? Combine them down into one. Maybe take one of those titles, or probably This is AA is the best one, or change the title. AA for everyone, or AA for every alcoholic, or This is AA.
Doesn't seem to make very much sense in my opinion.
No, I mean, it just kind of points to the nonsense with it. Now, the number 10 pamphlet was Young People in AA. And Shank, I think you were telling me earlier that they started talking about that they had a pamphlet back in 1960. Is that
Which
right?
is just like crazy too. That it
Yeah.
has literally that it has been that long that we've been.
I thought young people were like a new thing to AA.
Me too. I thought you were one of the first.
Well, the little small article that I was publishing the Grapevine in back in 96 or
And
97.
Lavinia, the first Lavinia.
That's what it was about. It was kind of telling people that, hey, young people aren't new in AA. The book that was written in 39, 38 even mentions young people. So anyway, so here's one. So there's a pamphlet called Young People in AA. There's also a pamphlet called Too Young, question mark. You ever looked at them? They're the same pamphlet.
I know. Well, and to your point, and when we did our season on pamphlets, in most of the pamphlets, it's just recycled information
Yeah.
that adds a few words in that are pertinent to the realtor in AA
Yeah.
or the felon, the criminal,
Yeah.
the justice involved, which is the new term where we are.
Justice involved. Yep. Oh my goodness.
So it's just like it already as it stands, they should either literally all be the same, the exact same, except they just insert whatever the word is. Young people, whatever, old
Yep.
people. Or do away with all the special interests, special groups. You're so different, unique, and special, and how hard it is for you. Literature.
Oh, the other one, number 7, is A Brief Guide to Alcoholics Anonymous. So again, it's almost the same thing as This is AA. So now there are 3 titles in the top 10 that I think may have some validity. So number 4 is Questions and Answers on Sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
It historically has been a good pamphlet. But now there's some stuff in there where they're trying to tell you like how to sponsor people and telling you what not to do when you sponsor people. I don't know about that, but it's a legit pamphlet. There's one in there called Problems Other Than Alcohol. It's a very good pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
And then the AA group. So it would seem you could have questions and answers on sponsorship, the AA group. This is AA. Do you think you're different? And we could roll with that.
Well, and quite honestly, even most of those would probably sound about the same.
Correct.
Like questions and answers on sponsorship, frequently asked questions. Do you think you're different? Hey, and all of those question. Do you think that AA doesn't apply to you because of insert the blank here?
Yeah.
Are you an alcoholic? Fine, do AA.
Yeah. Maybe we should write a PAI that asks them to reduce the number of pamphlets and get it down to a more manageable number, or don't have any pamphlets at all.
Mm-hmm.
The literature rack at the group and at other meetings sometimes is like a sales display,
Yeah.
like going into a timeshare or a,
Yep. Yep.
and here's a question. So if we never produce another pamphlet, if they just shut pamphlets down completely, if you had no access to them, would that hinder us from helping another alcoholic?
It wouldn't matter.
It would not matter. We're still going to go help alcoholics without pamphlets.
Because I mean, doesn't the book Alcoholics Anonymous also tell you all of these things? I do see an advantage, with like some quick draw pamphlets, questions and answers on sponsorship for someone who like isn't going to read the book, doesn't have the book, if you're giving it to a professional. But even like all the professional specific pamphlets, I cannot stress this enough that they do not read them.
They don't.
And if they do, the follow-up is always a member of Alcoholics Anonymous showing up, looking like a recovered alcoholic, having a conversation with that person. Like, hey, here's what we do. Here's what we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a recovered member of AA. 12 years ago, I was in prison.
Yep. Well, then we don't need any pamphlets. All we need is our experience and the book. Matter of fact, you could help somebody recover even if you didn't have the book.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The workbooks are funny to me, mostly because you recently got a new corrections workbook, which is, it looks like the most sold
It's
workbook.
interesting. How many was it 1,400?
1,400 corrections workbooks.
That seems high to me. Who's getting them?
I guess all of the area corrections reps.
There's not that. There'd be 93, maybe. It's interesting. I think that's an inflated number, although that's what the report says. So we're going to go with that.
Well,
So
when did you buy yours?
I didn't buy one. As a matter of fact, I got sent a note from the correctional desk at GSO. I don't know when it was. It was back earlier in the year, saying that it was on back order or that they were going to send me one. And I specifically asked Nick, or the correctional desk coordinator, to not send me one. I said, I don't need it. I didn't say I've got one. I just said, I don't need it. Save the money. Because I know it. I don't know what it costs to produce, and I know it costs a fair amount to mail it. Well, it showed up anyway. I appreciate the gesture, but I don't need it. I'm not going to use it. I don't know many people that do use them. There's a lot of good material in there, but it's nothing in there that I would use to talk to an administrator. I've already got the experience of talking to them, and if I really needed help on knowing how to approach or talk, I would talk to somebody that had experience with it. I'm not going to get it out of a workbook. So,
As someone who, um, when I took over being in our area, it's called the meeting sponsor for a prison. There was this guy that I knew, and I think he was our area corrections guy at that time. And I would call him every single Friday when I was leaving and tell him how irritated, angry, annoyed. Like I would keep it together for the staff, right? And so at some point he was like, "Hey, get this corrections workbook." And I got it. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that we had all of these pamphlets and DVDs and information and wow. And I watched all the DVDs,
mhm.
immediately said no. Looked at the pamphlets, looked at the information. There was probably maybe like a year's time where I was really trying to be like, let's use this corrections kit.
Yeah, yeah,
It's in my archive
I,
now. I
yeah,
just must admit that I was never going to give any of that information to the professionals. I was never going to show up with that thing. I did for a little while. Like, I really tried to be like, let me see how I can use this. And it just,
yeah. I, I had the same experience with it a long time ago. And to your point, I mean, the professionals and the administrators of facilities and places of recovery, they don't look at videos and they don't read the materials. They just don't.
well, they don't have the time, okay? Like,
No.
oh, so AA is going to show up and say, here, you do all of this work figuring out how this can work for you and email me back. And how dare you if you don't? And if I can't get a blue
Yeah.
card tomorrow, if I can't take a training when I want to, how dare you?
Yeah. So check this out. There a total workbooks. There were about 5,500 total workbooks sent out in 2023. That's CPC, archives, corrections, PI, treatment, accessibilities, GSR kits. I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of money. You would think that they would ask you if you wanted them, or they would provide that info online nowadays if you really
Yeah,
needed it. But I mean, I think it is online, but to send it, and it's a big old honking workbook. I mean, it's
it
thick,
is.
got a lot of stuff in it.
Well, I could see for accessibility's sake, if you submit one of the paper forms saying, hey, I'm a new GSR, I am the new treatment facilities, then obviously they would mail it to you. If you submit it online and you have access to the internet,
Yes,
have
yeah,
access to
upon
it
request.
online.
Yeah, right.
Like that just
Yep,
makes sense to me. I don't
yep.
know.
Now here's an interesting stat for you. So the least distributed pamphlet in
Oh, yeah, this is what I
2023,
really want to know.
drum roll. The least distributed pamphlet in 2023. Let's be friendly with our friends.
Now, wait a minute, weren't we just talking about that pamphlet?
We were. It was a workshop, a panel topic at a conference we were just recently at, and I was talking about how good it was, and nobody's reading it. Do away with it, even though I like it. This is how you operate. So if it's not being read, even though I think the content in it is very good, yeah. So this is a pamphlet about cooperation with the professional community, basically. But yeah, there were only 2,100 distributed in 2023. It was like 0.11% of the total. Now here's one. So when this one came up as a PAI, I kind of spoke out against it, or I guess in opposition or whatever.
Hmm.
Hispanic women in AA. Listen, I think Hispanic women should be in AA. I know many of them,
Hmm.
but to have a pamphlet specifically for a Hispanic woman, it is the least one of the least distributed pamphlets. There were a little over 4,000 distributed in 2023, 0.21% of the total, 0.07 per group. So what's different in that pamphlet that's not in some of the other pamphlets? Like there's 3 or 4 other pamphlets for women. Do Hispanic women recover different than a German woman? Do Hispanic women recover different than a Swedish woman? An English woman?
there's this Hispanic lady, and I was like, "Hey, do you want me to bring you um, a book in Spanish?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, sure, that would be great." So I bring her the Spanish big book, and she had been sober for a little while. And a couple weeks later, so I ordered 5 of them to have because I'm like, "Ooh, her friends are probably going to want them too." And a couple weeks later, she was like, "Hey, can I get one in English?" And she did speak English, like not the best, but she spoke pretty good English. And I said, "Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely." And she was like, "Yeah, just the Spanish one just isn't the same."
Yeah. How
And I was
about
like, "Well,
that?
Mary, there you go." And you know what?
Yeah.
I've never related to someone more when she was talking about the way she would drink if she would go to the bar,
Mm-hmm.
flirting with everyone, crushing Corona bottles on people. I was just like, "Yep."
Yep.
Okay, so just here's the here you go, Hispanic women in AA. Do you have a drinking problem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
AA
in
is
a,
not a religious organization.
yep.
Alcoholics Anonymous has only one requirement for membership, and that is the desire to stop drinking. There is room in
Ding, ding,
AA
ding, 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 ding.
for people of all shades of belief and non-belief. All right. You are not alone. All right. We share experience, strength, and hope with a wide variety of Hispanic women, all whom are alcoholics, got sober in AA. All right. And then it moves
That,
on to
it's the same message that's
stories.
in 60 other pamphlets, and it's already in the big book, and it's already in our traditions.
In Alcoholics Anonymous, we have learned that anyone, anywhere, regardless of their personal circumstance or the language that they speak, can suffer from the disease of alcoholism. We have also learned that anyone who wants to stop drinking can find help and recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous.
So we've spent years of debate, and we've spent money and time developing a pamphlet that says the exact same thing as many, many other pamphlets. And the message is already embodied in our steps and traditions as they're written.
What if they printed one pamphlet, okay, and there was just like it was blank, okay? So in this one, instead of saying
Yeah,
Hispanic women in AA, it just has a blank. And then you show up to AA
you
and
type
I
in what,
write I
yeah,
write young man in AA.
yeah. Then you show up and I write young female, right? And then
Young
when
criminal.
Walter shows up, we write old black man.
That's right.
When Aloha shows up, he's been a guest, by the way.
Yep.
Old white dude.
Yep.
Yep.
Who has been
Yep.
sober for multiple years at a time and then relapsed and now he's back and he's older and has a walker.
Yep. And then when Billy shows up, we write gay dude. When little Jimmy shows up, we write fearful dude. I mean, it's like that's not a bad idea. That'd be a quicker way to get at it.
I mean, why not? And then that
Mm.
is even further evidence of like, hey, we are all the same. Look, I'm gonna grab this paint. It's the standard one we give to everyone. What's your name? Oh, Jerry. Okay, Jerry in
Right?
AA. Who cares?
Yep.
What is it that you
This-
think is so different about you or so unique?
well, we could do our own. We could take the "Do you think you're different" pamphlet and leave a blank in it.
I just might print our own for our home group. Just have
I
a
like it.
blank. And
I
then
like it.
you're going to show up. We'll see how many home group members listen to this podcast. You'll show up and they'll all be replaced on both of their acts.
I'd be in favor now of getting rid of the literature rack completely. So, what do you think, Shank? Should we are pamphlets necessary?
Listen, I understand that a lot of people are really just trying to do right and want to see that one alcoholic get and stay sober. But I do think that's a little naive. I don't think that that's necessary. Um, I'm kind of tired of being pigeonholed into the whole corrections in AA and it's different and no, 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 no.
Yep.
So no, I don't think that all of this is necessary. We could probably have 5 or 10 pamphlets
Yep.
and keep it moving. And then our delegates who have a lot to do. Okay, like I'm not crapping on them like, oh, all y'all do is sit around and do nothing. No, like you do
Yeah.
a lot. So that is not lost on me. You're traveling around, going to a bunch of events, you're going to the general service conference, like you're doing a lot. But
Hmm.
some of this just seems really silly. And like we've created a lot of business in AA that we don't need. It's too organized. That is what too much organization looks like,
Yep.
in my opinion. So scrap them, get them out of here. I don't know what the situation is where we store them, what goes up, but I think all around it would probably be a money saver. And then we would probably have the same revenue from pamphlets, whatever that may be. I can't imagine less people would buy 10 pamphlets than they buy 65.
Right. Yeah, you might even see sales go up.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I can't say it any better than that. I'm with you. I think pamphlets should be out of here.
Scrap 'em.
So we're gonna
Even
scrap them.
the 12 Traditions Illustrated, which I love, you can scrap
Yep.
it.
Scrap it. Nobody reads it.
I know.
I mean, even if you look at how many were distributed, I mean, it's not as many as you would think.
I will say, if you've never seen the translated 12 Traditions Illustrated in Mandarin, please
Oh
check that
yeah,
out.
you saw that at the office, or do you have one?
I have one.
All right, cool.
Hmm.
Well, let's uh, let's be friendly with our friends, and we want to move on to living sober shrapnel.
All right. This season, we have been doing Living Sober Shrapnel, which is a segment of lore, myth, and sayings as written in the booklet, Living Sober. Living Sober is a booklet. If you did not know, it is not a book.
That's right.
All right. So, these all come from the 55th printing, which was 2024. Our first Living Sober Shrapnel comes from page 15, and it is Restful Convalescence.
All right, I'm curious to see how they're using it.
So here's what it says. Some of us find we can't think up non-drinking things to do. Perhaps this is because we're just out of the habit, or perhaps the mind needs a period of restful convalescence after active alcoholism ceases.
Yeah, it's like this guy just making stuff up. I mean, what in the world?
Yep. Take your period of restful convalescence.
Some of us find we can't think up non-drinking things to do. So if you can't think of non-drinking things to do, settle in on a period of restful convalescence. What the
I don't
heck?
really know how that's going to help, to be quite frank.
No. Perhaps it's because we're out of the habit. Well, we're out of the habit of doing non-drinking things. And so the solution to that is restful convalescence.
Okay, but isn't that kind of like an oxymoron because
Gee,
convalescence is like resting, right?
yeah. I mean, it's
The period needing for returning to health after illness.
there you
The
go.
recovery of health and strength after disease.
So we need to restfully recover from our disease
just
before we can
sleep.
come up with non-drinking
Just
things to do.
hibernate for a while. Suck on that battery.
Suck on that battery. You know what though? I would say that if you get involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, meaning like if you go to some meetings and start interacting with people in AA, this is not an issue.
Agree.
Right? I mean, I know that people are, a lot of people when they first get sober, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm never going to have fun. You know, people go through that stuff. But if you come in and just halfway get involved, this is a non-issue.
Yeah, agree.
And you don't need to restfully convalesce, so I'm scrapping it.
Scrapped us out of here. So our next comes from page 16.
You know what? We got to use this at the home group one night. Restful convalescence.
We do.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. What's next?
All right. So next, our meeting shop. It's a long one. Okay.
Oh,
but it is bridge, macrame, the opera, tropical fish, cabinet making, needlework, baseball, writing, singing, crossword puzzles, cooking, bird watching, amateur acting, leathercraft, gardening, sailing, the guitar, movies, dancing, marbles, bonsai, collecting something or other. So here's what it says.
I love
Many of us have picked up hobbies we'd never dreamed of before, such as bridge, macrame, the opera, tropical fish, cabinet making, needlework, baseball, writing, singing, crossword puzzles, cooking, bird watching, amateur acting, leathercraft, gardening, sailing, the guitar, movies, dancing, marbles, bonsai, collecting something or other. Many of us found we now really enjoy things we wouldn't even consider before.
That is awesome. Oh my goodness.
So listen, that covers it all.
The...
So if you're in your period of restful convalescence, just go to
Yep.
page 16 and try out some marbles or bonsai.
I'm right. That's what I'm talking about. Marbles. Got to do some marbles. And I'm also a big fan of the tropical fish.
Does that mean having like a fish tank?
Yeah, that means having a fish tank as a
Okay,
hobby.
but they just called it tropical fish.
Tropical fish. Yeah. That's powerful. Leathercraft. Got to get into some leathercraft. You know? Maybe even a little, bird watching is good.
Okay, but here's what's funny to me is like this would probably be something they would want to update in 2025. But as a 37-year-old millennial, a lot of these things have really come back around. Okay, so like gardening, bonsai, collecting things, bird watching.
Mm-hmm. Crossword puzzles?
I've been to opera. I do crossword puzzles.
Macrame never left.
Macrame never left. Now, I do not play bridge, but mahjong is coming up, okay? So I feel like mahjong is the new bridge.
Uh-huh. What about sailing?
Listen, some of these, sailing, bonsai, these are very expensive.
Habits or hobbies.
You know,
Yeah.
which makes sense for, all the guys that were first getting sober. Ebby could have afforded it for sure.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with amateur acting and tropical fish.
You're not an amateur. You're like professional actor.
Right. This is pure gold here. I mean, this is probably the best one.
If you like lists like this, read the Living Sober booklet because they're all about a list. Yeah. Okay, I'm telling you.
So when Barry wrote the book, I wonder if he went into restful convalescence and this is what came to him.
I believe that's exactly what happened.
I wonder if he actually did any of them. Marbles. Who the heck plays marbles?
That's the man's bridge.
I guess. This has got to go. I'm scrapping it.
It's out. It is out.
What's next?
All right. So this comes from page 19. And serenity is like a gyroscope.
Okay.
Serenity is like a gyroscope that lets us keep our balance no matter what turbulence swirls around us, and that is a state of mind worth aiming for.
My goodness. This dude may have been on some of that same LSD that Bill was on. What in the world? Serenity is like a gyroscope that lets us keep our balance no matter what turbulence swirls around us.
Okay, and I was pretty sure that I knew what that was. I did look it up, like when I put this on here, because to me, it doesn't put you off balance, but like you're looking into it. I wouldn't say that it helps you keep your balance.
Huh. I might have been mistaken on what a gyroscope was then. You know what I was thinking of? A kaleidoscope. The kaleidoscope is that thing you look into and you twist it and it's got that colored glass in it. Mm-hmm. And it makes all different shapes. I think the gyroscope is that thing where it spins and it balances out no matter how you spin it.
And you see them like a lot of times in doctors' offices.
That's right.
And yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I was off track on that. So basically what it's saying is that no matter what's going on around you, you can have balance and serenity. I think the big book mentions that you can match calamity with serenity. Mm-hmm. But here I am on down the road of life pretty far away, and I didn't know what a gyroscope was. So if I
scrap it, it's out.
If I read this, it wouldn't have worked very well. I think it's out of here.
It's out.
All right. Well, those are some good ones, Shank.
Pretty good.
Yep. Hey, appreciate you listening. If you got comments or questions, you can hit us up on at freedom@alcoholicslive.com or on the gram. And think through what would happen to you if you didn't have any pamphlets. And maybe talk to your delegate or trusted servants about some efficiencies and skinnying down our inventory. And in the meantime, take the 12 steps and be free.
Freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, suggestion, or just need help, you can email Shank and Wayne at freedom@alcoholicsalive.com. Remember, we're recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do we get paid. Join us next week for another great episode.